Good morning. Is it on? Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Cheboygan State of the Community. I appreciate you all coming out today. As our councilwoman, Diane Rabb, would say, this is an uncivil hour for anyone. So we really appreciate you being here. Seeing all your faces makes us know how many people in this community care about our small hometown and its progress. We have a lot of thank yous today. We want to say thank you to the fire department in letting us use their fire hall for our breakfast. Thank you to the Cheboygan Opera House, Owen, Travis, and Daniel, who have been above and beyond accommodating in this beautiful venue. We feel very fortunate to be here. We want to thank our ambassadors who showed up very early this morning to help us get all set up for the event at 6 a.m. They are the muscle behind the chamber, and they all work their day jobs and represent their businesses and are the faces of the chamber, and we really appreciate all the hard work that they do. We want to thank our board of directors from the chamber. Today we have Rick Wolfgram. He is our vice president. We have Missy Kosecki, Daniel Kirby. I think that's all of our board that's here today. Thank you for coming and representing the board. And we also want all of the city elected officials to stand for a moment so that we can recognize each of them. I know there's lots of you out there. Thank you for coming today. We know that you do the groundwork to make our community run so well, and we really appreciate all the work that you do. We also want to thank all of our presenters today who have put a lot of work into these presentations. We're very excited to hear from you. And to do our welcome today, we have Mr. Rick Wolfgram from Bernard Building Center.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cheboygan's annual State of the Community event presented by the Cheboygan Area Chamber of Commerce. Even with the Chamber experiencing a somewhat turbulent beginning this year, our new Executive Director, Carol Yeck, has proven to be a very valuable addition to our organization. We very proudly introduced the graduating class of our first Leadership Cheboygan program that has been years in the making. The program is such a success that we already have future leaders asking to be part of our upcoming class. The weather didn't cooperate with this year's Business Expo, but that didn't prevent our Cheboygan businesses and organizations from coming together to proudly showcase their goods and services in Washington Park. This year's State of the Community topics are a little less controversial in contrast to years past, but that does not minimize their importance to our community. Today's topics not only affect our present lives, but also discuss how Cheboygan's future will take shape and show how our small town community is not a small town mindset. The COVID years taught us we need to be able to adapt to whatever is thrown at us, and Cheboygan will continue to adapt as needed to grow and expand.
Thank you, Rick. We also want to say a special thank you to our sponsor, our lead sponsor, Consumers Energy, and we have some words from Carlin Smith.
Thanks, Carol, and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here. It's a very honored for us at Consumers Energy to sponsor this great event, and we really very much enjoy our partnership with the Cheboygan Area Chamber of Commerce. So I'd like to utilize my 3.5-minute sponsorship message time today to talk about an important topic for our clean energy plan, and that is an investment in our solar energy. So at Consumers Energy, we plan on adding about 8,000 megawatts of solar power by 2040. That's a lot of power. We've already started that work, and we hope to bring about 1,100 megawatts of solar capacity online by 2024. So we're currently searching for tens of thousands of acres of land for potential utility-scale solar projects around Michigan. And yes, we have had conversation with folks right here in Cheboygan County. So we are considering potential locations such as farm fields, especially farm fields, and those may be less ideal for growing crops, or maybe the family is no longer engaged in farming with those lands. We also are looking at brownfield sites. We did a nice brownfield project in Cadillac already this year, and also publicly owned properties. So you may be asking, so why the investment in solar? Well, there's certain environmental benefits. We know that, that's obvious. But it's also becoming more and more cost competitive for us as a utility and for our ratepayers to do that. And it also gives us a lot of flexibility, keeping us from having to build that next big power plant, which is what we really want to avoid as a company. So solar is the centerpiece of our clean energy plan to meet Michigan's energy needs over the next 20 years, and at the same time protecting the environment by eliminating coal and achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2040 is our goal. So we filed sweeping proposals to end our coal use by 2025. This is 2022, so that's just 3 years from now we'll be out of the coal business, which was 15 years faster than we had previously planned. So accelerating the retirements of our remaining coal-fired power plants will reduce our carbon dioxide emissions by more than 63 million tons. That's the equivalent of removing about 12.4 million passenger vehicles from the road in 1 year. So think about that. So by 2040, more than 60% of our electric capacity will come from renewable resources, and the majority of that will be solar. So another question we get quite often is, what does it mean for communities in Michigan about solar? Well, there could be some serious economic opportunities for landowners in various communities through the sale of property or by providing income through easement agreements on their properties. There will also be increased community tax revenue to help fund critical basic services. Consumers Energy, by the way, is one of the biggest taxpayers in the state. I suppose our friends at DTE are right up there with us, but we pay a lot of tax dollars in the state of Michigan. And we need support from landowners and communities throughout Michigan, especially in rural and agricultural areas, to make this clean energy transformation a reality. So in conclusion, I want to assure you that as optimistic as we are about the future of solar energy, we do understand that the sun does not always shine in Michigan. And so we are preparing for that. And that's one reason why our clean energy plan also includes the purchase of a natural gas-fired plant in Covert. This plant, along with our current natural gas plants in Zeeland and Jackson, will help to make sure we have that reliable on-demand electricity to meet Michigan's energy needs when renewables such as solar and wind are not available. We are also counting on battery technology that is a growing industry and gets better all the time to help us store that power that we're raising through solar. And of course, we have the Ludington Pump Storage Facility at the ready to provide power when it's needed on those critical demand times. So we look forward to working with you in this next chapter of our company's history. It's going to be a dramatic time in the energy production field over the next 10 to 20 years, and it'll be something fascinating to watch. So I hope you join us on this ride. And again, thank you very much for allowing us to be a sponsor today.
Thank you again, Carlin and Consumers Energy, for making this event possible today, and also for your mentorship. He has helped me a great deal on the chamber side, and I truly appreciate you. Our next presenter is got to be first on the list because they have to get back to school. I'm very excited to announce them. They have an innovative and impressive program for the young students up at the Cheboygan Area High School. They are first in their class and have an A+ in my book. So we would like to introduce Ryan McClintock with Cheboygan Area High School CTE program, as well as Robert LaPointe, Luke Munger Jr., and Kenzie Burt.
Good morning, everybody, and it's an honor to be here to speak today to you. A little out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do my best, so thank you. Next slide, please. Carol already introduced our three students here, but I'm going to start out by asking them each a question about CTE or about themselves and let them answer for you. And I'm going to start with Kenzie Burt. Kenzie, can you tell me what your academic schedule is for the day? Go ahead.
I have AP Literature, then I have AP Calculus, then I have Marketing, Autos, then I have Chemistry, and then I'm taking an online course for AP Psychology with Michigan Virtual.
She has a very well-rounded schedule. So my next question is going to be for Mr. Luke Munger Jr. here. Luke, What do you think is important about CTE in our high school?
I think CTE is important because later in future you're gonna need these skills for like trade work, just life in general, like woodworking, autos, metals, marketing. You need it all for your life in the future.
And Robert, what do you like best about CTE courses that you take? And Robert has 3 of them in his schedule this year, so.
I like the hands-on work.
Perfect, Robert. Okay, next I have a quick little video to educate you about career and technical education in our country. So if you could play that video, thanks.
Everyone wants kids to be ready to take on the real world, right? So what's the secret? Say hello to CTE. CTE is Career Technical Education. Maybe you've never heard of it, but CTE gives learners an academic foundation along with technical skills and hands-on experience in a whole bunch of different areas to help them get ready for the real world. Think of CTE as a high school experience, but with even more value because it fills a big gap for a lot of students. In fact, CTE learners and their parents are 3 times as likely to say they're very satisfied with the ability to learn real-world skills as part of their education as compared to non-CTE learners and their parents. And since over 75% of CTE learners enroll in post-secondary education after high school, CTE is definitely creating a path to college and career success. And get this, they have a graduation rate over 10% higher than non-CTE students. Did you know 89% of parents think students should receive more education about career choices while in high school? That's where CTE comes in. Think about it. Is it better to experiment with career choices when you're paying money to do so in college? Or should it happen in high school so students know a lot earlier whether a career option is the right fit? The answer is fairly obvious, don't you think? Now let's talk about why CTE is good for business and industry. It's pretty simple. Companies want skilled employees, and they're having a hard time finding them, which can cost the company money in lost productivity. Enter CTE. 6 of the 10 hardest to fill positions are in technical fields or require a CTE background. In fact, about half of all CTE learners are enrolled in programs in leading fields such as healthcare, STEM, and information technology, matching employer needs with student passions. CTE programs directly connect learners in high school and post-secondary with employers through internships, apprenticeships, and other meaningful on-the-job experiences. When it comes to CTE, more than twice as many CTE parents report being satisfied with internship opportunities. That means a lot of doors are being opened for kids. So here's the bottom line. Parents want their kids to find a career they can be passionate about. Kids want the same thing. And when you think about the real world, what could be better than having learners enter a field they know is right for them with a ton of hands-on experience? It's all possible thanks to CTE. CTE, learning that works for America. To learn more, visit careertech.org.
Thank you. That's just a quick little national video that they put out. The following slide here I have is, these are the CTE courses that we offer at our high school. And I'm going to go through each and every one of these and just give a quick little briefing about an outstanding point of that program. So if we go to the next slide here, what are the benefits of CTE? I want you to understand that these are my thoughts, and my thoughts is the biggest benefit is we take academics and we apply that to real world situations in our labs, in our classrooms. Our automotive kids are working on cars using the equipment. Our marketing kids are learning skills of building resumes and how to learn about entrepreneurship and competing in DECA against other students with interview and business skills that they have learned in their programs. So the other part, hands-on learning, everything we do, like I just said, it's related to industry or business. They get certifications. We're gonna have approximately 80 kids get their OSHA 10 hours by the end of the first semester here, and that certificate never expires. Automotive get ASE, our welding program can become different levels of certified welding certificates as well. That allows them to go out into the work field. And then most importantly, one of the things that we hear most about is soft skills. I know I have up here resumes and learning how to interview, but the other things is, work ethic, showing up every day, doing your job. Those are all emphasized in our classrooms. And we also work with NCMC and offer 1-credit classes to provide training in those skills as well. So, and the kids do get college credit for those little bits within our programs. Next slide. Just unless you're interested, on February 17th, we are having our Career and CTE Showcase, College Readiness Day. We have a bunch of colleges come in. We have a bunch of businesses come in and present to the kids, have a booth. Kids can walk around, visit different areas. If anybody's interested or has a business that would like to present on that day, please contact our guidance office and we will get you signed up. It's a Friday in February. Over the last few years, we've been very blessed with multiple grants from the state, and we have been able to upgrade many of our labs and facilities at the high school. Not coming out of general fund money from the district, but coming out of the grants, which is really nice for the school district. This is our welding lab. The new addition of equipment for this year is we just added a FANUC robotic welder for students to learn on. We like to make sure that our students are working on the most up-to-date technology. And yes, welding involves a lot of technology these days. And so we have brand new lathes and mills, and that FANUC welder is going to be a great addition. Also our CNC. We do collaborative projects with our drafting program as well. You've all probably seen the bee down in the park. We have the dinosaur that I have somewhere on here, but that's our welding program. Education general, we have an introduction to teaching to educate students on becoming teachers. Last year, we had a great opportunity to go down to the Capitol building in Lansing and present to our legislators. These students don't just sit in a coursework and learn about education. They're over at Eastside working in classrooms with teachers and learning, do I want to be a teacher? Do I like working with students, etc. So they do not work at the high school. They work middle school and lower because we don't want them working with their same age people, but they are learning how to be teachers. So those are 2 great shots of 3 great students and their experience at the Capitol. And Mr. DeMoose actually introduced us on the floor last year, so it was a great honor. Woodworking technology is not just your typical woodworking class anymore. We have integrated technology into that with our CNC CNC mills. This also had an update to this classroom a few years ago. New equipment, new flooring, and we just have a great woodshop program, and our kids turn out some really nice projects. If you didn't get a chance to see the pictures from the mites competition that was in Mackinac City last year, it was a great opportunity for the wood students. Culinary arts. We run a full restaurant in our school a couple days a week for about an hour and 45 minutes a day. These students learn hands-on skills on everything from knife skills, baking, cooking, how to be a waitress, how to work the front desk, how to take care of the funding and ordering. It's a 2-year course. Obviously at different levels. The Drift Inn, I recommend you stop in sometime this year and have a lunch, anything from a soup and salad bar to a specialized item. But these kids learn the real kitchen skills that they need to go out and work. They also earn their ServSafe certifications so that they have those going out into the restaurant business. So. Marketing, this is one of our premier, you'll see every year that they do great in DECA. DECA is a student organization that competes against thousands of other schools, or at least hundreds of other schools here in the state. We have several kids go to states every year, and over the past few years, we've had several kids go to nationals as well. You're showing pictures of our school store, and this is recently updated as well with new flooring, new cabinets, and new countertop. And I'm going to say we had fabulous work from Creative Cabinetry on our new cabinet there in the front. And our flooring by Johnson's is just, it's a real upgrade to that. But our marketing program, everything from, like I said earlier, entrepreneurship, what different type of businesses there are, what different kind of areas of marketing you can go into, etc. The marketing program is also in charge of our work experience. So if you have a student that comes and works for you for a couple of days and do the work experience, it's a great opportunity for kids to get out into the field. We also have an auto program that works very closely with our auto dealerships here in town. They learn everything from diagnostics, engine repair, alignment, electrical, and much more. They also have a chance to earn an ASE certification in either electrical or brakes. There's a couple other areas, but I'm not the auto teacher, so I'll just let you know that. We also offer drafting and CAD in both mechanical and architectural drafting. We've had a great opportunity with an SME grant from the state of Michigan and the SME Society of Mechanical Engineers. And they have been sending us equipment. So we've added different things. We have a Stratus 3D printer. This printer can actually print parts strong enough to be used for a short time on a piece of equipment. Snap-on certification kit where we can do precision measuring and learn how to measure using all different types of tools such as calipers, even tape measure, tape and rule, all the way up and through. So, and then we also have a couple mini lathes that we can carve plastic and metal that they do CNC program. They do the drawings on the computers, send it, create an STL code, and put it into the machine, and it prints or manufactures the part. So that's the CNC mills are going to go great with one of my next slides coming up here in the future. I just like to show the student success here real quick. We had an in-house welding competition sponsored by Moran's and Purity, and gave great prizes and scholarships. The Woods projects up there is from the Mites competition that you would have saw in Mackinac City. Also the bee that sits down in the park on the Children's Walk Trail. And then there's the picture of our students that placed at DECA. So, great opportunity for our welding and drafting kids as well. We offer the Fab Lab from NCMC that comes over twice a week to work with students in CNC milling and CNC lathe. So those kids, I'm just gonna give an example. I had a student graduate last year with 15 credits already from NCMC in this program. And if they wanted to take our English 111 and 112 that we offer through our education department and NCMC, they could actually walk out with approximately 21 credits from NCMC without ever leaving our building. So this is a great opportunity for our kids that take those programs. Last but not least, any questions or anything that you would like to ask me personally, you can contact me. There's my thing, or you can just reach me at the high school or email me. I appreciate your time for this morning, and I hope you understand how important I believe, and I hope you believe our career and technical education programs are for our community. Okay, thank you very much. All right, guys ready?
Thank you again for coming to Cheboygan High School. We really appreciate you being here. We know that you are very busy and have to get back to school, but we really appreciate your presence today. Our next presenter is going to present on state of housing. I've known Mr. Pulte for quite a few years, and I was very familiar with what a dynamic person he is and what a lovely family he has. But it wasn't until I heard him speak at the Cheboygan Economic Development Group's Forum on Housing this fall that I was so inspired by what a wonderful speaker he is and by the insight that he has on the national housing crisis that weighs heavy on all of our minds. He has some positive and insightful solutions that are possible in Cheboygan County, and I thought it was crucial that we bring him here today. So we really appreciate him coming today, and come on up.
That was quite an introduction. That was very kind of her. I got to make it very clear to you, though, how this lady knows me. I eat a lot of cheeseburgers. So, and she knows my family pretty well from there. First off, thank you very much, Carol, for having me and all of you. I'm not so sure I got a whole lot more to say that you all haven't heard already about housing in Cheboygan. We need it, right? But there's a problem getting it, and how we go about getting it. I think a lot of people in this room can help make a difference, or at least what I've seen so far in many of the meetings I've been privy to be in about trying to develop some land in Cheboygan. And it was interesting to find out the state of Cheboygan's infrastructure. I think many of you know it's a wreck. I think many of you know there's a new development wish. People want new housing in Cheboygan, but it's very difficult to convince a community, whether it's the city, the county, the state, whomever, that it's okay to come in and build all this new stuff, but we got to take care of this in parallel to that. So that's the infrastructure question mark, and Jason, who is here, will speak to much of that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But that's a real big gorilla in the room type of deal in Cheboygan County and in the city. You know, there are buyers out there. There are people looking to buy homes in Cheboygan. Unfortunately, one of the things I have noticed, and again, let me back up if I may. I've been coming to Cheboygan my entire life since I was a kid over on Mullet Lake. I've lived on Mullet Lake now full-time the last 4 years. I'm going to live in Cheboygan the rest of my life. I'm an old home builder. I don't want to stop building houses, so I figure, well, why not build houses in Cheboygan? Currently, I'm building houses in Petoskey. And why am I doing that when I ought to be doing it right here in my backyard? So that's why I got involved with all this, and I was able to connect with some really good people from the county, and we put together a really good program, we thought, to try and get some housing developed in the city, in the county, and that's when we found out about all this issue with the infrastructure that we will get through. The county, the city will get through it, right? We have to if we're going to succeed. We can't. The gentleman that spoke first up here talked about the mindset. Again, I'm not a lifer, but I've been around here a long time, and Cheboygan needs to change the mindset that, well, we gave it a shot, it didn't work. No, I think we all owe it to ourselves, to our families, to the generations to come, to get it done and get it done right, so this town can move on like the rest of the towns around us. And that's just my personal opinion, so let's get back to reality. So the housing, yeah, we need the housing. There are buyers out there. We got plenty of realtors. Many of you are here today. We got bankers. We got everything we need. We got builders. This town is loaded with a lot of really good builders. So we've got everything we need. We just need to come together, state, city, county. We know what the problem is, or if we don't, let's get it figured out specifically on how we repair the infrastructure, who's going to pay for it, the facts about who would be asked to pay for it. There's a lot of grant money out there, and I was speaking with Dan earlier. He's been able to get some, but boy, oh boy, he's going to need a lot more to fix the problem, let alone start the new stuff. But that doesn't mean we can't do it, all right? It can be done. So that I was only asked to come up and, I guess, give you my opinion on the housing issue in Cheboygan. And again, I don't know I have a whole lot more than what I've just said to say about it. I'm willing to answer any questions. So any questions, please? Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you have any other site locations that you're thinking of in the county where you might have a planned project?
Working on a different site in Cheboygan County right now that would not affect the infrastructure of the city or the sewer or water program. Yep, so to answer your question, yes, sir. Looking at a couple different sites. Yes, sir. No, I don't believe it's that bad, but again, the gentleman who can speak, who's going to speak after me will be able to speak much more to that. I just know that from a, volume development perspective, it's not capable to take anything. I mean, the site we were looking at, hoping to put, between 50 and 70 homes, currently, I think was capable of taking on 3 or 4. Right? So, I mean, and again, you can do that around this town. I'm doing it. I mean, builders are building houses. Just the one-offs aren't going to cure the problem. All right? So we need volume housing, whether it's apartments, condos, single family, duplexes, those type of deals. Yes, sir, again. No problem. Again, I can't speak to the specifics of it. I think it's both. I don't know, but again, you can ask that to the gentleman who'll be up here right after me, I think. Anyone else? All right, Carol, is that it? All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Pulte. It's good to see you as always. Our next presenter has already kind of got his introduction. I think that Mr. Carmel, it is not well known that he's kind of a celebrity. He has more credentials in his field than anyone else in the state. And I am very impressed with the fact that he doesn't just address what he is working on right now at the Department of Waterworks, but he also talks about the history, and he also has a plan for the future long after he's gone. Something that will serve our community for decades to come and generations to come. So without further ado, Mr. Jason Carmel.
Thank you, Carol, for the kind words and the nice introduction, and thanks, Bob, for teeing up the presentation about how I need these rate increases. I mean, he served it right up to me. So I'm going to talk about the city infrastructure, but I tailed the content to deal with why we need the rate increases, why the rate increases are important for an upward trend for the infrastructure to support the development. And if we didn't get the rate increases, we wouldn't be talking about expanding or improving the infrastructure. So I want to say that our infrastructure is definitely trending upward, but it's only trending upward because we're making an investment. I can't make our worst stuff our best without an investment in the infrastructure. Okay, so next slide. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the generalities of what's under the Department of Public Works Director. We have 49 miles of water and sewer pipe, 4 wells and a water tower, a wastewater treatment plant and 5 pump stations, 60 miles of streets, 5 million in rolling equipment, and over 100 million in total assets. Next slide, please. So our current reality is that we still have water mains in service from 1894. My regulator sums this up the best by saying it's not from this century or the century before, it was from the century before that. So we have water system needs and the current improvements needed to be in compliance. So our sewer system, our wastewater treatment plant was built in '78. It had a 20 to 25 year life. Currently, the wastewater treatment plant violates 9 out of 12 months out of the year. There is a delicate balance of me. You're only going to see things in the presentation today that I have solutions for, and there's a reason for that. I can't go around talking about how bad the things that I see without eroding confidence in the infrastructure. If I told you how bad some of the places that I see, you wouldn't buy property in those areas. I'm telling you. So what I have to do is only give you that information now that the wastewater plant is under construction. Because who's going to buy a big piece of property when I'm telling them the wastewater plant's falling in on itself? So I come out and I tell you these things after I have a solution. So if that's news to you, it's because it's frequently new news for funding the wastewater treatment plant improvements. Our DPW, some of our plow trucks qualify for historical plates. The reason I say that is because we bought some used trucks to replace them. So I'm reluctant to pave the roads with aged infrastructure. So I don't want to pave a road and go back and fix some of this crumbling infrastructure. So I appreciate when people tell me how bad the road looks. I feel for them. I go there, I see it, and I say I'm sorry, but I have to tell them, look, I'm not going to pave it because you got a water main that's 75 or 100 years old. So I have to fix that first before I tell them the frosting on the cake. I can't lay this over. It might fall in on itself next week. Now I can tell you some good news. The water quality is excellent, and it's so underappreciated here. Every emerging contaminants test comes out clear on these wells. This water quality is excellent. There's other communities that are struggling to give clean, potable water to their customers, and this keeps exceeding my expectations. And not only that, it tastes good. The roads are getting paved as I fix the utilities. The wastewater treatment plant is being refurbished as we speak. So Cheboygan has limited resources, so I knew that if I wanted to make some big investments, it needed some grant funds. So the first thing I did when I got here, I applied for an MEDC grant, and we got an ICE grant to replace one of our largest transmission sections between our well houses and City Hall. But that $1 million only got me a mile. When I first got here, only 40% of my prints were as-built. So there was a lot of information missing. So we got a GIS mapping grant so that I could digitize these maps and start getting these guys locational devices to find curb stops in the winter and start making it useful. It also tracks my progress. The wastewater treatment plant and the SSES, when I got the wastewater plant upgrade, we got a principal forgiveness grant of 25%. Now the wastewater plant funding through the SRF is up to 20 million. So we plan on using all of the 20 million because of the principal forgiveness, because I'm not really going to run out of things to fix. There's going to be enough stuff to fix in that, and I want to use the 25% principal forgiveness along with those fixes. Now I can tell you how bad Court Street is because I have a solution for Court Street. And the reason I like to announce these things is because I don't want to erode confidence in the infrastructure, but I want to tell you where I'm going next, where the next thing is going to look good. So Court Street, I'm going curb to curb. I'm fixing the storm. I'm fixing the sewer. I'm fixing the water. I'm fixing the street. It's also one of our biggest areas of unknown service, and unknown service means we don't know the materials. So this will allow me, like on Center North and Palmyra, to discover 69 unknown services to find out their materials, and now we can say they're copper. In 2025, I will have to announce to the state that I know the material of all of our service lines. It's very difficult when we have a patchy history of fixing this and fixing that everywhere. So that's why it's important to not only do these projects, but go to our biggest area of need and make it our worst stuff our best. Next slide. In 1882, the water system was put online. In 1892, Cheboygan already had 6 miles of main. The cost of the main, I used the inflation calculator to calculate that it was $4,300 a mile at that time. And in 2017, it cost me $1 million to do that same mile. So that's the scale we're looking at. I really like diving into the history to find out how this thing was put together. I have a running joke that I know it's my fault. I just don't know it's my fault till I come into work. But I say that to prep these guys to accept responsibility for all the crews that came before us and for what we do. We got to take pride in what we do, and we have to want a sign for the work that we do. And when we replace something that is of questionable quality, we want to be able to sign our names to it so that somebody can look and say, well, we dug it up and we think these guys did it right, or they did the best that they could. Because I have to remember that people in my profession were saying that lead service lines are the greatest thing back in the 50s and 60s. You know, these are the same people that we're trusted with. So I have to have the same skepticism of myself that, look, people in my position were saying lead's good, and now we're saying lead's bad. So we have to have that same humility as we go through. These people, you know, I inherited their work. Next slide, please. So here's the faces of the people that I inherited their work. And sometimes I bring this up to show them that these guys in the hole are smiling with pickaxes as my guys are complaining with our trucks and you know, our power equipment. But not to say it isn't any more difficult for us to have just 3 guys in a digger than having this whole crew there as well. So it's a reminder that I'm inheriting what they did. Some of these wooden water mains were digging up on First Street during that Huron project. So we see the history as we dig through it, and I'm trying to make them proud of what we do. Next slide. So the water system is deficient according to Eagle. I showed the matrix, as they call it, on our sanitary survey with the 3 areas that are deficient. And then we responded to that with our USDA and identifying all the improvements. And we're also identifying the suggestions from Eagles and trying to take care of that all in one loan that looks kind of complicated when I talk about it, because it touches distribution, it touches production, and it touches some of our treatment and chemical areas as well from the suggestions. I'm hoping that we fix all of the suggestions so that we don't go into it saying that, we wish you would have done something. So I'm giving them another chance to weigh in before I spend the money to make sure that there isn't something that they suggest right after I'm done. Next slide, please. So the wastewater treatment plant is the largest portion of what our rate increase is necessary. This is the original slide that I pulled out of the plant from '79, and it was a very good facility in '79. It had a 20 to 25 year life, and it was doing what the city needed it to do at the time. It did start failing shortly after the 25-year life, and we've been dealing with that ever since. That's also when the payment stopped, and there wasn't an investment made from the city or the council until now, but the state forced us to do that in an administrative consent order. Next slide, please. So Cheboygan wastewater has logged 38 pages of violations since '03. The current process utilizes some dangerous chemicals like chlorine, gas chlorine. The staff has done an excellent job of doing the best they can with what they have, but they'd like to meet discharge requirements consistently. I guess this is a good point to bring up that when I got here, not only the plant was in a state, but the morale was really low. They had been fighting this plant for many years without light at the end of the tunnel. They were fixing things that we called dinosaur parts because you couldn't get them off the shelf. They had to be from supply warehouses or custom tooled to fit our wastewater plant. So that's not only expensive, but it's morale breaking to come back the next morning and have something else go wrong with the same piece of equipment. This 40-year-old equipment tends to break down a lot. It's difficult to get parts. The discharge permit considers the quality of the receiving stream. I've seen a lot of these discharge permits. This is one of the hardest ones to meet with one of the oldest plants I've had because I have to at least be better than the Cheboygan River. So it's not like I'm on the River Rouge or the Raisin River or the one of the rivers downstate that's pretty questionable quality that you wouldn't want to go in swimming. I have to meet these discharge requirements, and they're pretty hard. And it's pretty hard without the tools. The facility has a $30 million replacement value. It's critical to public health. Not only that, I don't want to be the one to close the beach because of the way the plant's behaving. It was rebuilt in '78, put online in '79. The last upgrade was '98, but really what they did was they added a tank. For that money, they added a tank, so it's kind of like a pocket for me to put water. During emergencies, it lasts me about 4 hours. So we use it to relieve ourselves when we need to change a process. But it does little more than that. But some of the people thought it did more than it did. So I had to kind of explain that it doesn't quite help the treatment process. It's more like a garage, so I can stuff some wastewater I can't deal with now and then bring it back into the plant later. And the public is generally interested in the above ground money. They're not interested in hearing what I did underground. Now they're concerned about the gravel I had to put where the asphalt is, taken away. Next slide, please. So when I flush, it goes away. Why do I need upgrades? The top left is a gear reducer that's pulling out because the concrete's 40 years old, and we keep having to weld plates onto the end. The picture in the middle top is the bar screen that removes the debris that shouldn't be flushed, but it's in a state where we had to completely disassemble it and repair it. And during that time, everything that we don't want to go into the plant is going into the plant. I got to let it in there. because the thing that's taking out that debris is plugging up, is not working, and now that stuff is plugging up my pumps and stuff. The one on the top right is a flood. These floods have happened 3 times since I've been there, but normally what I'm trying to do is have you guys not even notice that that is even happening. We're trying to make sure that we pumped that water out, we pumped it through the plant, we reported it to the state, and you guys kept flushing the whole time. The bottom left is bio wheels that are falling off. That's actually what's doing the treatment, but they've done so many rotations, now those plastic packs are falling off. And that's what holds the biological growth that treats the waste. So we're cutting those things off with chainsaws, trying to get it to spin a few more times before the plant goes. And the bottom right is a fire that we had in 2016 where we lost all automation process, and we went back to caveman days of operating by hand, by switches. So a lot of times we take for granted this automation. We can program how we want the plant to perform. And when that doesn't happen, there's a lot of things that we consider about how that machine works. So we got to go back to operating the whole thing manually. And we were back up and running in 3 days. And nobody really knew the difference in July. People were still partying on 4th of July. There were parades going by, and we were dealing with the fire. Next slide, please. So the rate increase was important because it really gives me the tools that I need to achieve compliance. And now I'm switching the process to a biological treatment capable of meeting the permit. So I'm trying to get rid of a lot of our chemicals and use biological treatment processes to do the same things that we use chemicals to do. Now we're adding large clarifiers to reduce the solids loading to the discharge. The discharge is where it's going into the Cheboygan River, to be specific. The headworks is being reworked to remove the debris up front. We had that done first to protect the plant. I needed to remove all the debris that you shouldn't flush so that it doesn't end up into the new plant process. We were reducing operational costs. Parts will be readily available. We'll be able to buy, for instance, our old bearings used to cost us $5,000 a set because they don't make them anymore. Now these same bearings cost $500 a set. So that changes the way that we do maintenance when I can buy something from several different supply houses and get them to compete against each other and have several different manufacturers, both OEM and off-brand. We're going to minimize the downtime because of that process. It's a community investment. It's critical to public health, and it's safer to the employees and the environment using biological. And right now, I want to use as much of that 25% principal forgiveness to give us as much biological treatment to save you from buying those chemicals long term. Next slide, please. I brought this slide because usually when I give a tour at the wastewater plant, I have to start them out by asking how many are city residents, how many are in the county. The reason I start that way is some of the county residents might get glossy-eyed if I don't let them know that their septic tank is still coming to me. So I need to pique their interest even if they're on the lake. If they're in Cheboygan County, they're coming to my facility. And unbeknownst to them, during this whole process, the state was saying you shouldn't take those septic tanks. So I made this chart to make a good argument to the state that even though my plant is the way it is, it's still the best way to take care of this waste in Cheboygan County. I don't want to penalize the residents of Cheboygan County by taking it to an Alpena plant or taking it to a Petoskey plant or driving it all the way to Traverse City. So I made the argument we're still taking septic tanks, we're still taking recreational vehicles because of this chart and the argument to the state. But I wanted to let you know, regardless of where you live, if you live in Cheboygan County, most likely your septic tank, when it gets pumped, is coming to me, and I'm trying to responsibly take care of that, and that treatment plant is part of that process. Next slide, please. So the stormwater in the streets. I told you about the water, I told you about the wastewater. I think it's appropriate for me to let you know that when I choose projects, we are rating the roads, we are rating the stormwater, we're rating the whole street as a holistic system. And then we're taking those ratings and we're discovering that it is Court Street. So there's not a lobby, there's not a certain amount of times a customer comes and complains about Court Street. Although I do take all of those because I want to take those considerations when I go into the project. So when I take, whether it's developers, customer complaints, I put them into the section that they're relevant to, and we score those projects. So the stormwater in the streets, we have known infiltration of stormwater into the sewer. So I'm taking that consideration with every project. We have a lack of funding that prevents long-term repairs. We lack the manpower and it prevents the desired upkeep. We're relying on contractors for work not covered by insurance. We're trying to reduce the usage of salt while keeping the road safe. That's why some people complain about the sand, but I'm only allowed to use so much because I have to report how much salt I put into the stormwater. And then I have to report how much salt I put into the lake. So I need to balance that. So some of the areas you see me use sand and salt, I'll use sand, but I'm just explaining that so you guys have some understanding of why I can't just salt everything. We're only paving the streets with newer infrastructure. We had partial mapping of the system. We had paved over valves and lids, and the maps were converted into GIS with a grant from RCAP. This is important because I'm trying to pass on legacy knowledge, and I don't want it to be one piece of paper in a drawer. I want multiple copies. I want it on the net. I want it on the hard drive. I want it so that no individual could walk away with any of this work I've done, and it has multiple copies. So that's important to me in this process. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of some of our GIS mapping work, and it allows me to input some of these notes. It also helps me with the rating system. It also helps me figure out where the appropriate sized piping now lies. Previously, it took me overlaying maps to understand this information, and some of them weren't as built, so it was very difficult to give accurate information. We're still working on these maps, and some of these ratings that we use currently are by age, but we're looking to improve those ratings by getting actual video over the sewer, which is going on right now. You'll see a rogue truck out there. That's what they're doing. They're giving me video so I can improve the rating of the sewers from an age-based rating to an actual video-based rating. Next slide, please. So we're working on stormwater as well. I have Tip in the Mitt Watershed Council helping me with some of the things that are difficult to understand on the east side drainage, for example. Some of the drainage issues on the west side I fully understand, but some of these things that I need to investigate further and I don't have the time, I'm trying to employ other professionals that probably have forgotten more about this than I'll know. But that's kind of been the way that I've been successful, is latching onto the smartest person I can find about some subject and then asking all my dumb questions until it become better questions. So that's what I'm doing with Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council, asking them about what we affectionately call Frogtown, and I'm trying to make it not Frogtown anymore, and I'm trying to understand some of the issues that we have there. But I'm trying to give you some examples because I didn't put this map up when I didn't have a solution. We're looking at some solutions and grants, so I wanted to make you aware that we are looking at things even if we're not talking about it. It's just we haven't found a solution if I haven't brought it up. I don't want to discourage people buying in that area if I tell you I don't have a solution for the stormwater. Well, now we're looking at a solution and we're looking at funding sources, and we have some solutions that are ongoing right now. Next slide, please. The Pazer map is a street. This is probably the one that you're probably can go out and help me rate. It's the most obvious to rate. It's because we're looking at the condition of the street, and what we're doing is a 15-year rotation. We're trying to get a 15-year rotation, but you know that that's currently not happening. A 15-year rotation on asphalt would only happen if the infrastructure was nice enough for me to look at paving everything every 15 years. So what we do is we rate the roads. Some of them are gravel, some of them are earthen in the east side, but what we do is we rate the roads so that it can combine with our water rating, our sewer rating, our storm rating, so that we can give a holistic rating for the next street project after Court Street. We already know which one's in line. We don't want to announce it because we don't have a funding source. And we also would like the opportunity to change our mind if different evidence were to present itself in between now and the time that we propose a project. Next slide, please. So we have a 6-year plan to improve infrastructure. So on the state side, we have to plan in a 6-year cycle. And in a rate study, we're only allowed to take 20 years in consideration. For example, I know I have to paint the water tower on a reoccurring cycle, but I can't take the 100-year painting and put it on the people of today. So I can only put in 20 years into a system, but we have to plan out further because I know what's going to take place. I'm just not allowed to raise the rates for things that are beyond 20 years at this moment. We're proposing $27.2 million in proposed projects. We have $20 million currently in process. This covers all 4 departments, which is water, sewer, storm, streets. We have the water sewer covered by rates. Water has distribution and production, by the way. Storm and street water funds are general funds. The storm, water and sewer rates are adjusted for projects, and the regulations now require asset management. I think one of the things I'd like to point out is that my water sewer rates only cover the water sewer enterprise funds. The street and the storm water are funded by general fund. So sometimes I have to go in and talk to the council about enterprise funds and talk about the intermingling of the general funds. Water is going to pay for the water main on Court Street. Sewer is going to pay for the sewer main on Court Street. But our general fund and PA 51 funds are going to pay for the stormwater and the streets. So they all have to intermingle, and these funds have to balance to do Court Street. Because we're getting a grant for Court Street, now I can look at the next project, because it's not that I'm running out of projects, I'm running out of money. Next slide, please. So how is the city planning to deal with this aged infrastructure? All of these pictures have already been fixed, but I have pictures that are scary as well that are difficult to show you. But we're planning on these by planning for the future, trying to get the investment, and at least doing what the rates will fund our projects. Next slide, please. So the water, sewer, and the roads are rated. The combined ratings score our project. Court Street's the next project. Customers not on Court Street may disagree. We only announce the projects that are funded, and it's a delicate balance between transparency with the city that we would like to give and eroding the confidence in our infrastructure. And I think one of the problems that we're having currently is that the city is very wide and sparse, and some of these developments and plot maps were given large lots and small infrastructure. So most of these were developed to be single-family homes in areas, and they have small water and sewer lines. That's some of the difficulty that I'm facing, is that we're looking at large plots that have large lots for single-family homes, and we're trying to put multi-units on there. So I need to take that input, and then when I go to a project, I need to upsize these mains, if possible, to help spur these developments. But we also need to rezone it as well, to allow me to know that we need to reuse these and it's not going to be residential forever. So I can't predict where things are. I can only tell you what's in the ground and move forward with that. But the other reason I showed that picture at the beginning is that the people in 1800s that were paying their little bit of increase were investing in a system. And these same people on Court Street were investing in that system. And they were relying on me they were the next one in line. And I'm trying not to skip over them in favor of something else or some other shiny object. They've been ratepayers. The individuals on Court Street may have not been there 100 years, but that resident's been there for 100 years. And the people living in that residence have contributed to the water sewer system, and they were waiting for me to come and fix it. And I'm trying not to skip over them. Next slide, please. So the state requires asset management planning, but you also need it because this investment needs to be upkept. So I don't want to invest $20 million in a wastewater plant and then not prepare for 25 years later with some solutions for them, because we'll be back into the same boat 25 to 40 years later than we are today. So I have to look at what are the age of the assets, where's their location, is it their age, the condition that they're in, is it important to service, when do they need replaced, should they be rehabilitated, can we schedule the work over time, How much money do we have now? Money that we need for reserves. What will we need to borrow? It provides timing for expenses. It spreads out costs. It allows affordability. It plans for future generations and considers life cycle costs. At the beginning of this, some of this I will be wrong about because I have to make some assumptions of things that haven't happened yet. And I'm going to be the first one to guess at some of them. But I'm going to attempt to guess because the people behind me will get better and better at guessing based off of my guess. So because we don't know when something's going to fail, what I have to do is look at their life cycle cost and say the probability of that failing at the age of 75 years or 100 years is pretty high. Like the water main that's 1894. I have to assume that it's a pretty reasonable high risk that that's not going to survive much longer. So those are some of the assumptions that I'm making when I look outside of something's service life. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go into all of this, but some of you that know best management practices are trying to optimize your efficiency in whatever business or commercial endeavor that you have would know the difference between reactive and preventative. You could look it up online, but this is what they're trying to get us into a mode of preventative maintenance instead of reactive. It's very hard to get out of a reactive mode of maintenance when all you're doing is throwing Band-Aids at everything. So it's these large initial investments where I can make the worst stuff our best that help me with the best chance to get out of that mode of operation. Next slide, please. So this is the opportunity that I'd like to spend a little bit of time of, I spend a lot of time with trying to educate the public of some of the things. I don't want to say no to anybody, but I have to say some no's to protect ordinances, to protect the city residents from having their city water, sewer, or general fund unreasonably spent from demands from citizens that don't fit ordinances. So when I'm tasked, I find that most city people might not have looked on the website, may have not tried to look up the ordinances, or may not have asked questions to staff. When I get a misinformed public, they usually have asked their neighbors, or they've relied on institutional knowledge, and that may or may not have been the case. I've even been cited stuff that happened before '74 on my Safe Water Drinking Act, and most of the ordinances have changed since the '70s. So I don't know how to change the thinking other than to educate them on what's here and now. So I put a couple examples because I bring up illustrations like this when I have to just tell a homeowner that unlike the city you were in, the customer sewer line is yours all the way to the main. But in the other communities I've worked, I've seen all kinds of conditions of rights of ownership. So I've seen it, the delineation at the lateral. I've seen it go all the way back into their right-of-way, into their property. But here in this specific community, they've decided to have the homeowner go all the way to the main. Now, the advantages of that is that the city is not responsible for the homeowner flushing and plugging their pipe. That's usually the biggest advantage. One of the disadvantages to me as I go through with the project is I need everybody to commit to changing their sewer pipe when it comes down through a project. So the difficulty I had in 6th Street is I had a couple customers that didn't want to change their sewer line. Same thing when I did Center North and Palmyra. I had a few people that didn't want to spend to upgrade. And then I feel bad later when they have to fix it and we have to cut that nice street. But that's some of the difficulties I have when I can't convince a homeowner to fix the private portion. The other difficulty I have is there's difference in communities between the delineation of the water service. So at the bottom, you'll see a water service. Now in the city, the responsibility is delineated at the curb stop. But there's a misconception that the delineation is at the meter. Well, that comes from, I have hundreds of meters that are in the yard at the curb stop. So right now they associate that shutoff with the meter, and I'm moving the meter inside. So now they think I just accepted all the responsibility of their private because I put the meter in their house. But what I'm really trying to do is that curb stop, the meter is just 18 inches from the surface, and we created another freezing point. So what I'm trying to do is bury the water service as it is in the picture to give you a chance to go through all winter without freezing. I put the meter inside to keep it warm. And this allows me to possibly not run as much water as we do in the water run to help save some of that water that I produce just to keep these things from freezing. So it's beneficial. When they told me that I had time on the soapbox, this slide was important because I spend a lot of time explaining it, and I'd rather be out trying to fix this stuff. And I don't want to tell the homeowner no, and I don't want to interrupt their belief system. They came with strong beliefs that it was my responsibility to fix everything, and then I have to go back and explain the ordinances and explain that I can't invest city money in private lines. The real estate transactions, real estate improvement continues where the infrastructure will support it. Real estate improvements continue where the owner funds the changes. I say that because I have examples of both of them. We've had infrastructure where it was supported and all of the marijuana dispensaries were allowed to build whatever they wanted, and whatever ones succeeded, and the ones that didn't, but they were allowed to build. We had a McDonald's that needed to do a significant amount. They funded their own infrastructure. We had a hardware store, and we had a Bishop's that needed a significant amount of infrastructure improvement for their buildings. They decided to fund that move forward. We had some that wanted a significant investment from the city that I needed to take care of the deficiencies before the city would look to invest into a line that would support a business. It's very difficult for me to go to the state and say, I know I can't take care of this or that, but I need some more water main that I can't take care of. Because they're going to want to know the plan of how do I take care of that 1894 main before I put a 2022 main in and extend the system. So the last one is a real estate transaction question. And I understand why the seller's agent doesn't want to call me. I understand. He doesn't want to disclose anything bad about the system that he doesn't want to know. But why don't I hear from the buyer's agent? I think one of the best ways to get infrastructure taken care of is at the time of closing. I can tell a buyer's agent both the condition of their private sewer line and at least a condition assessment of what's coming through the wall to give them some reasonable indication. I can also look back into the history to see if there's anything done or any known problems, or how many times we've gone there to try to alleviate some sewer complaint. So I understand why the seller's agent doesn't want to call, but I don't know why the buyer's agent doesn't call. But really, I don't know why the seller's agent doesn't call before the buyer's agent to find out what I'm going to say. Next slide, please. The considerations I want you to take away most from this presentation is clean water is becoming extremely valuable. So I say that because I know that rate increase is tough, but it's an investment in the system and everybody's paying it. And I don't know how we're going to do this infrastructure without the rate increase. It's responsible resource management, and it's the right thing to do. We don't want to make money off of a business development but pollute the river because their wastewater plant is failing. So that's not a proud moment for anybody, and I don't want to have to close the beach or do something of that sort. Operation costs will continue to increase. I can't tell you how much it's gone up just quoting miles of main. I need to build a water tower now. The water tower is completely steel. The quotes I got before 2019 were much more favorable than I'm getting today. And I'm scared to quote the water tower here shortly because it's all made of steel. And if I could get the material. We need to upkeep with maintenance to prolong the life of the facilities. And for my staff, I have to pass down this to staff that, and I can't give it back to them in the condition of where do I start, because that's where I came and inherited it. So I need to look at and develop a plan and develop a list. Even if they want to reorder that list, I at least need to leave that for them. And that goes into the future planning, rehab, replace, rebuild. I need to make our worst stuff our best, and I need to repeat. And I need to repeat it as much as you'll let me. And the more you'll let me, the more I can say yes. The water quality is excellent and the distribution system needs help. These wells are amazing. They produce crystal clean water, so it's very disheartening to go to a customer and have them show me their orange water and be really mad. That's the distribution system that has picked up the rust from that well and is serving it into the house. So it's frustrating to know that we produced really good water and we just can't serve it in that condition. If you've learned something from this presentation, pass it on. I know that they're getting the bad news through word of mouth, so please help me get the good word through word of mouth. Infrastructure is generally overlooked if it still works. Look, I kind of look at my job as like an offensive lineman. If you don't hear my number or something bad called, I did my job. I don't want to be in the newspaper. I don't want to be on TV. I want you to turn on your water and kind of forget that we exist. I want you to rely on it. I want to be so reliable that you guys don't think about it until I have to come and tell you about stuff that needs to be fixed. And then know that I'm serious about it because I can't erode the confidence in the infrastructure. So I'm going to have to be really delicate about it. So if anything, I have to be understated. I can't go in like Chicken Little and say the sky is falling because nobody will buy there. So I have to be delicate with those words. And the biggest challenge that all utility providers face is the age of the infrastructure because nobody is preventively saving. We rarely do it at home. And mostly we're band-aiding the system together. So we're trying to instill a message of what's called the RR&I fund, which is repair, replace, and invest in your infrastructure so that you can rehabilitate some of these and save for the future so that there's a little pile of money to take care of some of these infrastructure needs. Next slide. I want to thank you for your time and the brave people that came out in the rain to willingly hear about all of my plight and all of the struggles that we have with the utilities. So with that, I can take a few questions. I know I probably went over on time, but some of the things were important for me to cover. I want to clap back at you guys for listening to all this and inviting me here to give me the soapbox to stand on. Yes.
Yeah, I just have to say, I thought you did a great job. You just went into a lot of detail about everything that's happening, and I know more than I did before.
Thank you, Roger. Yes. Yes.
Does that mean that a proposed development would supply the infrastructure to the main, or also be support rehabilitation itself?
I've been consistent in asking developers that want the service extended beyond my current system to look at the costs of installing that because of the difficulty I have in serving. So most of the developers that come want the services extended, but it's very difficult for me to do at this time. So if they would like to expedite that, I would like to help them, but it's very difficult for me to go away from a Court Street that I've been rating as high as I have. It's difficult for me to say that I've changed my mind or not support Court Street anymore because I need to go by these rating systems and continue.
So theoretically, a developer could proceed if they reached out, literally, the heights to you.
That's correct. And it's increasingly more favorable for me to get permission now that we are ongoing with our water system improvements and our wastewater treatment plant improvements. Had they not started yet, the state would want to know the progress of these things. But they're constantly getting updated of the progress of these things. So it would be a lot easier to explain the addition of a system when I'm currently working to address the deficiencies. Yes, we're beholden to a consent decree for the wastewater plant. Not only that, we have $2 million of that wastewater plant in what's called the sanitary survey evaluation. The that we are cameraing and evaluating the sewers because we have a significant amount of infiltration. So the purpose of that is to get rid of the extra stormwater that would otherwise put miles on the plant that didn't need to be there. So we're trying to do that in combination. We don't want our new plant to run at 100 miles an hour and red line all the way till its due date. What we would like to do is put the least burden on the plant as possible from day one and try to baby the equipment as much as we can to get as much life out of it. So that's why we're trying to combine it with what you see with the televising and infiltration reduction that you see out in the system currently ongoing. Is that it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jason, for sharing that valued wisdom with us. As we face the biggest national health crisis of our lifetimes, we found the dire consequences of inadequate internet reach across our county. As we retreated to working and schooling at home, there were areas in our county where employees and children were left without access to their education and livelihoods, and senior citizens were left at bay without connections to their loved ones. We tripped upon these isolating obstacles in an already dark and scary time. Presqu'Isle Electric and Gas rose to the occasion. They recognized our great needs in our area, and they answered our call, expanding their already demanding services of natural gas and electric to include an expansion in broadband internet services across our county and beyond. And we are grateful for that. It has been such a benefit to so many of our families in Cheboygan. And with that, we would like to introduce the State of Connectivity with Ruth Ann Largent.
Hello. Okay, I am going to go through these slides so fast and try to catch up a little bit. So here we go. Are you ready? What are we doing? We are putting in a fiber to the home network. We have a partner called Connexon, and they are helping us to step up and do this very quickly. They have proven methodologies to implement this. We are a power company, and we have learned how to be a fiber company very quickly with their help. We're going to be giving fiber to the home, which was up to 1 gig per home or business. It's a symmetrical service, so the upload and download speeds are the same. And we'll also be offering voice services. We're not offering that right now, but we'll probably be there before the end of the year. And we are not offering any TV service. You can stream anything you want on our network. It's be very reliable, so you'll have no problem. And then we have a mobile app that goes with it, and it includes some security, so anything attached to your network has that level of security, and it also gives you some ability to control things in your home. Next slide. This is our electric network. So all the labels here are our substations, and that's key to us because many of these are where we place the huts that are the head ends of the network that cover this space. As it says here, we have 36,000 meters. Next slide. This is what it looks like. So this is the space that it covers, and this is the area that we're going to. Can you click that? And within there, that's Cheboygan County. So you can see that a big portion of what we're doing is in Cheboygan. Next slide. What we're doing is a GPON network. The significance of this slide is that in the electric substations, we have the head end or some equipment. And from that electric station all the way to your home, there is only fiber. So there's nothing to break in between. In your home, you have a device that connects to that fiber and allows you to have the service. Next slide. This is the implementation process that Connexon has brought to us. It is a staged process, and we go through this stage for every electrical feeder, this is how construction happens. As you see, there's an inventory. We had to inventory every pole we had throughout all of those areas. I wish I could go backwards, but can you go backwards a few slides? Go back to the one more. Okay, on this slide, you see where Onaway is in the middle. We have started this network in Onaway, and we are sweeping up, and we picked up Canada Creek Tower and Black Lake and Fingerboard, Mullet Lake. That's kind of our first phase. Then we sweep up towards the Cheboygan sub, into Hammond Bay, then down to Millersburg, across the Hawks, and Hagensville. That's phase 2. Then we go from Grand Lake, Posen, Alpena, and Avalon, Hillman and Avalon, and then from there we go from Beaver Lake, Atlanta, Lewiston, and that's the end of our project. So it's a 4-year project and we're sweeping through this system. Okay, go back now. One more. So in all of that, then to do that, we have to do the 7-step process. For the inventory, we're already in Lewiston, which means we've made it through the whole system and we're near the end. So we'll be done with the entire inventory by the end of this year. Under Make Ready, which is the process of clearing or trying to figure out what needs to be happened in the route so that the fiber can be either strung or put in the ground. We're already in Hagensville, so we've gone through Cheboygan already. Make Ready construction, we're in Millersburg. That's where they come behind there and actually make the adjustments to hang the fiber. Fiber construction, we're in Fingerboard. So we're just, well, I guess we are in portions of Cheboygan and Fingerboard, and we'll be making our way up to Mullet Lake next. We have 438 miles of fiber already installed, and that's about 61% of our first phase. Next slide. This is where we have open services now. So people in these areas are receiving service. We have about 255 people on the network right now, and many others just lined up waiting for us to come in with our service. Next slide. This is the other phases. So the next phase, the second, third, and fourth. I'm sorry, this is all phase 1, but these are the next 3 areas that we're going to. These are covered by the substations in those areas. As you can see, a lot of it is in the southern Cheboygan area. This is what a hut looks like. So if you drive by a substation, you may see one of these huts. This one's from Onaway. The middle slide is what it looked like when we first got it, and then this is what it looks like with it built out with the electronics that serve and provide the network. Next slide. Then if you drive in the area, you may see these tap on a pole. This is the device that allows us to connect your home to the backbone. And from that tap, we go to your house, and there would be a NID on the house. Again, it's all fiber, and then into your home with fiber. Next slide. This is the device that you get. It's a combined router and a termination for your fiber. And if it has huge, it's the industry's best router you can get, and it has huge coverage. But if it doesn't, we have a mesh that allows you to extend the network. And then this is what a mobile app looks like. So this mobile app comes with it and allows you to control your home. You can control people, places, things, who's connecting to your network, when. You can allow your guests or children to connect or not connect. You can add Wi-Fi passwords, pretty much total control of your home. Next slide. What does it cost? So we have 2 services we're selling to residentials, which is the 1 gig and the 100 meg. And then under voice services, these will be our fees. For small business, we have similar pricing for the internet service for small business, and then you can also put things on vacation. We have a lot of people here who are seasonal, and they'll have some options there. Next slide. So what did this cost us? The project, this is capital cost only, is over $130 million. And I was talking to someone the other day, and he's like, yeah, or this is our government paying for this. And he's like, oh, no. You did hear we did get RDOF funding. We got $11.2 million over 10 years. As you can see, that's a very small portion. I have a note here that we did partner with Cheboygan County on an NTIA grant. Sharon Lang is here. She did a lot of work on that grant too. We did not get the grant. They gave it to areas that were much, much larger than us, but it was a really good opportunity for us to work with a government agency and to figure out how we're going to work together on future type grants. So we're still open to other funding ideas, and we still have a long way to go. Next slide. What's different about us? Again, you have this app. We have security. Many people are getting the internet who never had internet services before, so at least they have some sort of security protecting them. Pretty much if you don't invite anyone in your home, they're not coming in. And then Experience IQ is the controls, the access controls for anyone who's connected to your network. It's very simple. We don't have a lot of options. It's not if you have this and that, and it's like you can get the 1 gig, you can get the 100, everything's included, and go forward. All of our technical support, which is 24/7, is in the US. And community support, we're going through the whole area. We're not picking and choosing like, oh, which areas we want to go to based on how condensed population is there. We're sweeping through the whole area. And then we have a special focus on small business because for small business, they pay the same rates as the residential. This is our schedule. You may have seen this on our website. If not, you can go to our website. It's on there. And some other updated information. It's piegconnect.com. You can also get there through our regular PING website. But this is the 4 phases. And if you can click once more. This adds up to about 3,220 miles of fiber. That's just the backbone. So it's quite a big project, but we are well organized. We have good partners, and we're moving forward. As you can see, we're making some great progress. Next slide. That's it. Any questions? Good.
Thank you, Ruth Ann. That's very exciting. We are extremely fortunate to have North Central Michigan College stretching its boundaries to embrace the community of Cheboygan. NCMC enriches our area with the valued benefits of local, accessible, lifelong learning and an extensive umbrella of educational opportunities. Here to speak on the state of childcare in North Central State of Education, NCMC President David Finley, PhD.
Thank you, Carol and Ruth Ann. Exciting to learn about fiber going in the ground in Northeast Michigan because that's where higher education is headed in a big, big way. So you guys are going to be part of that. I'll go ahead and get started. So here's an overview of North Central today. We have just about 1,600 credit-bearing students, right? Full-time, part-time, dual, concurrent, working with Cheboygan in that area and early college as well. Probably twice that number in non-credit and personal interest. So a big impact in Northern Michigan. 74 programs today. We'll talk about that and our newest fast track opportunities. So non-credit programs that are really changing the scope of who we are and what we are doing. And our 3 locations. Here, Education Center in Cheboygan, Gaylord, and the main campus in Petoskey. Okay? So as we take a look back, I want to talk about 3 things, really where we've been in terms of planning and fundraising. So have had remarkable success, academic program, student life. Next slide. We're making headway. That's all I'm going to say about this, right? Lots of good progress. Next. A real focus on DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And there's a B, and that's belonging. And creating a sense of belonging at the college, right? Being able to achieve higher education, being successful in that endeavor, all are welcome. And so that's what we really want to convey with this effort. Next slide. So a big expansion of our lifelong learning. So these are short courses. You can see we've gone, actually I'll share, from starting the program September of 2020, 0 participants, to now over 4,400 unique participants in that activity. Just a nice community impact, both online courses that kept folks busy during the pandemic, and then face-to-face opportunities, hikes out in the woods to learn about mushrooms, just all sorts of opportunities to engage the world. Next. And we are at the 1-year anniversary, moving the Cheboygan Education Center, returning to the high school. So a lot of energy and excitement around that last fall. Next. And this is what it means for the students, right? They get direct access to our courses right where they are, college placement testing, as well as academic and financial aid counseling as they consider taking that next step. So it's been a really positive move for us, and we're excited about what the future can bring with additional connectivity. So we'll be having discussions today. Next. So this is what Cheboygan students choose to study. The the ASG degree, Associate of Science General Studies, Associate of Arts, and what we're probably best known for, health sciences. So a lot of students pursue nursing and other health professions. Next. So here we are, an image one of the most exciting things to happen, I think, in the past several years is to renovate our main classroom building. It's now the Bora Learning Center. We created a student commons, brought our student life staff up there, so the resources are there to help the students in terms of retention, achieving success, hitting the finish line, crossing the graduation stage, and all that was possible because of just remarkably generous folks in northern Michigan and a state capital outlay of $3.4 million. We've got big plans, but more on that later. Next. So childcare, let's step back and talk about childcare. So we have a significant childcare initiative underway. We want to create high quality, affordable childcare supported by strong community connections. Next. So we're really looking to do this in 3 phases. Our first phase, right? Strategies that have the greatest potential for impact and sustainability around accessibility, capacity, workforce affordability, and quality. Next. The second phase, now we've studied it, implement what we found. So we're looking to do that this coming year, best fit strategies, and then sustaining those innovations, right? Presenting this information to stakeholders, community leaders, so that we have a long-term plan moving forward to address this challenge, which I would argue is as significant as housing, as clean water, infrastructure. Next. So here's what Cheboygan looks like, right? We've got working on strategies for Emmett County. These are going to be applicable to all the counties around us, and we intend to share this information out. Cheboygan County is a child care desert, right? The ratio of openings to eligible children, a single opening for every 4 children. A significant number of 0 to 5 age youth. 14 in-home child care programs. 6 preschool centers that don't accommodate infants and toddlers, right? Less than 100 openings for children's ages 0 to 3, and the cost of full-time childcare is 1/3 of a minimum wage income. You see some of the challenges, right? Next slide. We will bring solutions. So back to our academic programming and really where the college is headed. A new Associate of Applied Science in Fire Science. So this is some information about that program. An exciting development for us. Again, a stackable credential that leads into the 1-year firefighter certificate of development. A definite need for folks in the public safety arena. This is the next step for North Central. Next slide. We're also making a significant push into an area that's not been a big part of who we are, right? North Central, really quality transfer education opportunities, right? I'm going to come, study for 2 or 3 years, then go on to a 4-year institution. We do that well. We do health sciences well. Now we're moving into manufacturing, skilled trades, engineering, technology. Next slide. So last Friday was a really good day on campus. We've been working in earnest for years, right, to garner accreditation of that nursing program. We've long held state approval. We're a regionally accredited institution, and just this past week, we got the final stamp of approval, national recognition of who we are and what we do in the nursing field. I may have shared this previously, but in 2020, we were ranked #1 of all 60 nursing programs in the state based upon our NCLEX licensure exam pass rate. All of our graduates passed that exam on the very first try to become RNs. And again, we'll hold that up against anybody. U of M, Central, Grand Valley. We're really proud of the good work that we do in this area. Thank you. So here's a very exciting development within this past year, our fast track programs, the first being a medical assistant program, right? An expedited path. What we're doing is training folks for jobs today, the bare bones that they're going to need to get out there and hit the ground running, right? They can then circle back and take that English class or psych or math class, what they would need to round out their higher education pursuits and earn a credential, but this gets them into the job. And they've been really, really successful. So there's grant funding, scholarship opportunities. We connect them with local employers. And I want you to take a look at the next slide to see the list of these offerings. This really is a new dimension for North Central. The first one under the big title is bookkeeping, right, which can lead into accounting, medical assistant you see, pharmacy tech, but some things that are new to North Central, not previously been a part. Auto repair tech, HVAC, mechatronics. I was so excited to see the high school presentation about CTE. We have laboratory equipment that will take those students to the next level. So really, really good stuff. We are offering welding this month in Pellston, and in January, that opportunity will come to Cheboygan. Next. Here's another fun aspect of what's going on at the college. This is our very first year of intercollegiate athletics. We're a member of the National Junior College Athletic Association, Region 12, which is the most active in the country. And we are one of 22 community colleges in the MCCAA, Michigan Community College Athletic Association. There are 28 colleges in total, so we are finally in the game. Next, with women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball. Women's volleyball is in season. They're underway. Our cross-country team is in season. They're currently running. Basketball starts in November. And we also offer esports. So think digital gaming, things like Fortnite. It's a different kind of an athlete, right, than what I knew and loved growing up. But exciting stuff. So come out and cheer on your Timberwolves. Next slide. I want you to see the facility as well. So this is our Student and Community Resource Center, but just a lot of fun with the branding, the excitement, the energy. We just got new bleachers. It's been a nice step forward and adds a wonderful new dimension to the student life opportunities available as well at what historically is a buffet of courses at a community college. Next slide. And last slide, this is where we're headed. So this is campus looking to the southwest, right? We want to take our academic programs even further, right? Getting at some new, and how can I say this? Grow to become a comprehensive community college, right? A college that does transfer education exceptionally well, right, that offers vocational or career and technical ed, continuing education as well, and for those who've had a tough patch during the pandemic, right, developmental ed or the ability to catch up, to take that next step into college level learning. We will be launching an LPN program. So if you think of my fingers as a ladder, we've got medical assisting or patient tech, fast track, adding an LPN program. We have our ADN or RN nursing degree opportunity, and the state just approved funding for ADN to BSN completion at the community college. So we will offer that entire gamut of educational opportunity. We're going to design a new residence hall. We need to bring talent into this region, right, to serve as the workforce for the future. And I'm excited to share, we're in the queue to get a capital outlay to expand the buildings on the east end of campus, health sciences, our tech center makerspace, and connect that all back to the main classroom building. So you will be hearing even more big news from the college. With that, I think I can say thank you by showing you a group of Cheboygan students who came to visit campus just this past week. So thank you so much.
Thank you, David. In closing, I think we can all agree that Cheboygan is heading in a good direction, but there's always more that needs to be done. Incidentally, if anyone has a spare $1 million, it sounds like the city might be open to a sewer line sponsorship. I'm kind of envisioning an MDOT road sign that with your sponsorship information. The only thing that I'm not so sure on is if you're going to need to put on that yellow vest and help clean the sewer twice a year. That I don't know how that's going to work out, but I'm sure we can get the details taken care of. There are always numerous organizations always looking for volunteers. I ask each member of our community to find an organization that can benefit from your talents and to please donate those talents to better our world. I want to thank our presenters, our members, and our generous State of the Community sponsors, Consumers Energy and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Without them, we would not be able to bring you this or any of our other programs. Thank you. And how about our wonderful new chamber director, Carol? Let's give her a round of applause for pulling this together. Thank you for everything, Carol.
Thank you. I want to thank Rick Wolfgram for speaking today. Rick is going to be our Board of Directors Chamber President in 2023. This was a little bit out of his comfort zone, and I think he did a great job. He has a very strong voice and a very dynamic perspective, and we're looking forward to good things to come. And thank you to all of you for coming today. Just by being here and getting out of bed so early, I know that you care and you are passionate about our city of Cheboygan. Please take the information that you learned today, go out, advocate for Cheboygan's progress, inspire others, and let's come together and bring this city to the top again. Thank you. Have a great day.